When you have those direct talks with players, do you think they're like, wait a minute, we don't want that?
Yeah, and are you kidding me? That's just not something that you should worry about. You should be worrying about your ability to make it work, and you should be worried about what the player does. Does he have good enough health? Does he have enough skill to do what you're paying him the money for? The agent is not a factor here, or something to worry about. And I don't know his name. And so my point is that I'm not trying to demean him in any way, but this isn't about an agent. The agent doesn't have one thing to do with what we're doing when we get on a football field against a team. Micah does.
Hello, welcome back to the One Star Cowboys podcast. I'm Kevin Turner. We have Jon Machota, Saad Youssef, and Kent Garrison here. Three dudes working at The Athletic. Make sure you're checking out their work. There's a lot to talk about in Cowboys land, as usual. See, April's funny. You got the Masters, the Final Four, the NBA playoffs, and NHL playoffs are just going to take off. Baseball is back. And I'll be damned if yesterday, 30 minutes of Jerry Jones action will just kind of take the sports world by storm. My God. Jon, your thoughts on Jerry's comments about Micah's agent and more.
Yeah, whenever Jerry talks the way he did yesterday from the owners' meetings in Florida, I just always feel like it's not by accident. Like he has a reason for why he wants to stir things up. And it just was very apparent from the very beginning. I mean, the first question he was asked was about Micah Parsons and his contract situation. And it was just very clear that Jerry wanted to get it out there that this is between me and Micah. I don't care about the agent. Well, and good luck with that, because I don't see Micah signing a contract without his agent being a part of it. And then for Jerry to take it as far as to say he doesn't know the agent's name, which is, there's just no way that that's true. I just can't believe that at all. David Mulugheta is one of the most well-known agents in all of sports and one of the top, if not the top agents in the NFL. His clients include Deshaun Watson and Jordan Love and Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he's got C.J. Stroud and Derwin James and Christian Wilkins. I mean, there's no way. Malik Hooker is on the Cowboys. It's also his agent. So for him to say that, it just seemed like this was going to be Jerry's like tactic of like, I'm going to make it about how me and Micah can figure this thing out. And we don't need an agent getting in the way, bogging things down, which while if you're a Cowboys fan listening to this, you think, well, yeah, well, that's great. Well, that'll get it quicker to an end road. And I get that. You're a fan of the team, but from a Micah perspective, from anybody perspective, you want to have representation in a situation like this. You don't want to try and negotiate this on your own. And so while I think Micah, it's very clear Micah has a very open relationship with Jerry and Stephen Jones where they talk a lot. So that probably is a good thing in terms of getting a contract done, I guess, at some point. At the same time, his agent is not somebody who does bargains. And so not that the Cowboys are offering a bargain, but I think there's a little bit more to it than just getting it done between Jerry and Micah, like Jerry appears to want it to be.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that point, to me, that's the vibe I got from Jerry, too. It was very, not just that, but also the way that, he's done in the past with the Zeke situation, saying Zeke who, or CD just, talking about, oh, there's no urgency, whatever. I feel like sometimes he just says some things just to establish his control and his, like, I'm in command here. And I feel like that was, because there's no way. I actually do believe that Jerry, the GM, doesn't know the 90th prospect in this year's draft. I believe that to some extent, but I don't believe he doesn't know David Mulugheta's name. Like, that's just not true. KT, you're a Parks and Rec fan. Like, I don't know if you remember that scene where Ron says, like, if I ever want to, like, if someone starts getting too chummy with me, I just mispronounce their name to show that, like, whatever. Like,
it's to show that I don't think about you.
Right, exactly. And I feel like that's kind of what Jerry was doing there, because I have a very hard time believing that, somebody that a pretty, I wouldn't say common, but like a decent NFL fan would know who David Mulugheta is.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to just when you're playing sports. If like you're an established player and somebody else starts talking to you, it's just so easy to come back like, I don't even know who you are. Like to just say that to them. And it just like, there's no way you come back from that. It doesn't matter. You can't say anything back to that because they've started this argument. They clearly know who you are. You know, they're saying things to you like that. And if you just come back going, I don't even know who you are, like it's really it's undefeated. And so I felt like there was a little bit of that there. I also kind of wonder if like because David is I mean, he's become very popular in the NFL because he has so many high profile clients. And to be honest, I mean, I'm not saying this is an absolute. I'm just asking for people out there, find me a better contract than what he got for Deshaun Watson. When you
Oh my
factor in
God.
everything, when you factor in everything, it's a great contract for Deshaun Watson without any off the field type issues or knowing anything. Just as a free agent. Let's just say he just there's everything is just perfect and all that. That's a phenomenal deal there. But you bring over all of the reasons why the Texans wanted to move on from Deshaun Watson, and I don't feel like I should have to name them. If you need to know what those issues are, just go ahead and look them up. Search Deshaun Watson on Google. So for him to get that contract for that player on top of it, it's the most, to me, it's the most impressive deal an agent's got done for anybody in sports, as far as I know. I'm sure that there's somebody that'll be like, well, no, Babe Ruth's guy back in the day got, I don't even know.
Yeah, of
But
course.
anyway, I'm talking modern
Yeah.
contracts. I mean, for him to get those guarantees, and that to me is what I think is probably, I don't necessarily think it's a year or the average per year number. I think it's probably like the amount of guarantees. If you're representing Micah Parsons, you probably want that contract to be fully guaranteed. And a team's not going to want to fully guarantee a contract to a player. You know, the thing that Jerry would kept going back to is like, well, even if you get a contract done, that doesn't guarantee anything. You know, Zach Martin, he had a contract, but he came back. He wanted more money. He's under contract. So even if you get a contract done, that doesn't put an end to anything. Because if a guy's playing really well and he's under contract, but he thinks he's worth more than a contract, then there's still holdouts from there. And while that's true with Jerry, I can't disagree with the points he's making. My disagreement would be that you're not you're not getting to a Super Bowl. You're not getting any closer to that without Micah Parsons. So if that's your ultimate goal, like you got to put some of the pettiness aside and get this deal done because I don't see any end to this where it doesn't the best for your team doesn't involve Micah Parsons. Well, if he's not on the team, then you made a move to add pieces for him. So one way or another, a move has to be made here. But I think where he's coming from is this isn't the Dak deal where it's like, oh, you have to get it done by the end of the season or he hits free agency. Micah's under contract this year. They could franchise tag him another year. They could franchise tag him. I mean, they technically could have him under contract. Like, if he doesn't want to play football unless he gets a new deal, he still plays the football. I mean, he's still under contract for the Cowboys for the next 3 years if they want to do that. You know, like they will have his rights. So there is more leverage here. But it's like, does anybody see a situation where he doesn't ultimately get paid by the Dallas Cowboys and is probably the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history when that deal gets done?
No, I think he absolutely will be. By the way, a side tangent, every time people bring up like, those contracts, like how did that player get that? I agree. Deshaun Watson is the guy, but for a long time for me, it was Timofey Mozgov. Do you remember like after he had his one good year in Cleveland, he went to LA and got like a $70 million dollar deal or something, and it was like, how the hell did
What
that
happened?
agent get that deal for
Yeah,
Timofey Mozgov?
See, and that's fun. That would even be a fun one to debate for me because for me, NBA contracts are guaranteed. So it's like the bar you start on in that argument is on a different level than like NFL contracts are not like that at all. And for him to get the guarantees that he got for Deshaun Watson are just stunning because you're not the NFL. You're not really, if you're a team, you're not trying to really stay away from the guarantees because you're worried that, hey, I mean, it's part of it about what a player could do off the field. It's more so that it's a violent game and you give guarantees for a 5-year deal and the guy gets a massive knee injury or like Dak's ankle injury, let's say, in the early parts of it. It might be some contract you want to get out of because you're just like, man, I'm never going to get this guy back to what he was before.
Or Deshaun Watson's Achilles.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Do you think Jerry was slighting David by not knowing his name because he kind of broke the system with this Deshaun deal? He just resents him for it.
I don't think it's necessarily a David thing. I think I'm not saying that publicly he would say anything. I'm trying to think how to word this. He would do the same stuff that he's doing right now with Todd France. He's
Okay.
playing games right now to, he did that on purpose. I mean, he mentioned that multiple times, not knowing his name. Like it was a thing he wanted to mention. You could just tell going in, he wanted to mention that. And he wanted to mention that only 3 people had his cell phone number, and Micah was one of them. I mean, it was very clear that that wasn't just a random thing. Because here's the deal. Like, so that interview it was 34 minutes he was available. And I would say half of it was about Micah. And there were just different points where he could have easily been like, yeah, I kind of already talked about that. Don't really want to get into that anymore. That's what everybody else does, 2 days before that, Stephen Jones was asked several questions about Micah. And while he gave answers, it's like, I guess the best way to describe it from a writer perspective is when you're transcribing, like Stephen's answer, 4 sentences, Jerry's answer, 28 sentences, and another 28, and now 35, 42. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's like, there's ways of like, because people will ask me like, how different do you think will be when Steven's running the team? Like he'll still talk to the media, but it just like it won't need to go 34 minutes because the answers won't be that long. So like when we talked to Steven, I think it went for about 14, 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like because he's going to keep going back to, yeah, guys, that kind of gets into negotiations. I don't really want to get into that. Jerry will just keep going and saying stuff,
Yeah, you don't have to deal with a lot of. Well, maybe you do with Steven, some hanging around the rim talk, because that was definitely a part of the.
Jerry dropped that line.
He brought it.
Right when I heard that, I thought about John. I was like, he dropped that line.
He's like, Final Four time. Let me bring back hanging around the rim.
One shining moment. What are we, 5th or 6th in wins since 2015? Which is
also not true, by the way.
No,
just playing the hits though. We kind of loved it. This is where I struggle, though, because Jerry did say this a couple times. He said, and by the way, John, I believe you, and I believe both of y'all's takes on this, and agree. But where I struggle with him now, where I didn't 10 years ago, is like just this known thing of like, and he said it himself, if I'm sounding defensive. And I was like, honestly, you're not sounding defensive. You're sounding like Jerry has sounded the last 5 years when he talks about things. It's just like when guys get old, into their 80s, it's like a well-known thing that people get more defensive. And there was a second there where I thought it could have gone off course if it wanted to, because he was speaking with passion about this. So I don't think it was some throwaway line. I do think that, like, I agree with you that the intent was there. It's just like, how tense is it really? Probably not that much, and there's plenty of time to get a deal done. But
let me also paint a little picture of my last few days in Palm Beach. The Breakers Hotel, this place is insane. Rooms start for your bottom of the barrel, $1,600 a night. Okay, that's on like some bargain type deal. You go to these parties. The rumor out there that the party we went to Monday night is $1 million party. Your buddy Guy Fieri was there. Serena Williams was there. Like you're just walking around, and it just like all these owners that you would be like, I can't believe they even want to be around media, like all hanging out there. Like, yeah, Jerry doesn't stay there because he's staying on the yacht. I tell you this to share for anybody that thinks that like me or you or any of them can convince them to start doing business differently. I laugh in your face. Yeah. They don't care what we think. So for anybody that thinks that they're going to tweet about how the Cowboys are doing this wrong and how they wait too long to pay these guys, you're not wrong. But you think that's going to get them to change? A lot of these guys, they dig in deeper when that stuff happens. Like nobody should be questioning that like the Cowboys have the secret sauce to getting these contracts done. They clearly don't. But just know I laugh when people are like, you need to hold them accountable. Like when you walk around that lifestyle, like it makes me it warms my heart that you think that they care what we think. They don't care at all. Like they don't. Well, like they live in a totally different world than we do. I'm telling you, I paid $45 for the most basic salad and a Coke. Like they're just living this different area of like anything. They don't care what we think. Okay.
Yeah, and Jerry said as much when he said that I've gotten everything I ever wanted in my life. And, so to your point, I think, yeah, it's very hard to break through to when that is the case.
I mean, clearly they have to know that from the Dak deal, the CD deal, the Zeke deal, it's very obvious they know that, like, yeah, waiting on these deals, they didn't get any bargains on them. And here's the thing, like when Jerry will say things like, well, and then there's times where you can pay a guy too early. And I understand people just scoff at that, but when he's saying that, what he's meaning is like the Jalen Smith, the Lyle Collins, he's not going to say Terrence Steele, but I think you could make an argument there. The way things are looking on the Diggs contract right now, you obviously paid him. Since he's gotten paid, you haven't gotten the production you got before. So there is that argument to be made that there are guys that they get contracts done with that you're like, well, obviously somebody that just rejoined the NFL and Michael Gallup, like, so there are things like that where you do understand where he's coming, but these top deals, like, you guys, like, what else do you have to wait and see with Micah? He's at the top of the list. So all you can do is keep asking them, like, okay, so why isn't this getting done? But you can't honestly believe that, like, they all of a sudden think that, oh, well, the fans are frustrated with this, so we're going to start doing it a different way. You'd hope that happens, but that's not going to happen.
I need you to refresh my memory on this, and I'm sorry if you don't have it up. We may have to find it. Jalen Smith did not get top of the market linebacker deal, though, did he? No, he got paid like an average guy. Same for Zeke. Did not get top of the market running back deal at the time. And that's the problem with that logic with what he was saying there.
Wait, that Zeke deal had to be.
Yeah,
Zeke
it was.
deal,
He topped Gurley on that.
Okay, so 19. The Zeke deal might have been. Okay. But that's the problem with him saying that is that it's different when it is those top guys. And we can go back to DeMarcus Lawrence if we want to. And we can go back to all these things. It's different when it's the top guy. If you want to go early and do a deal with David Mogoleta, who you do know his name, with Malik Hooker, like you have done, and give Malik Hooker, weirdly, 3 at 21 out of nowhere, which that seemed like a little bit of a reach at the time, too. That's not as big of a deal if you want to go early on that. Like, dude, if you wanted to go late on that, it wouldn't hurt you as much. Like, going late does hurt you, and the idea that it doesn't, that is incorrect.
Just imagine.
He says that's incorrect.
Just imagine this real quick. Like, let's say there's something that you were willing to make. You were so invested in it. It was such a big deal to you that it was such an outlier that, for example, that you only gave your phone number to this one person, and you say that you've only given it out to 3 people, and he's one of them, and you tell him that he can call you anytime. For Jerry to do all of that, just think about in your own life. If you had that type of investment, that with everything you're busy with, you're like, no, this is one of 3 people. You're telling me you wouldn't know a lot more about them? Like, oh, I don't know their agent's name. Just come on. Like, there's just no way that you can't play it both ways and say that he's one of only 3, but then I don't know anything else about him. I just, me and him just talk. Like, there's no way. And then the fact that he said they've talked 5 or 6 times, at no point can you say that they've talked 5 or 6 times and Micah hasn't brought up David Mulligata to him. Like, all right, yeah, I like this deal, but let's call David. Let's get it done or whatever. Like, there's no way, like, I don't, even if it is true, I can never believe it.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. Cowboys fans have been mad about this for a long time. I do think, maybe this will be the end of this and we can move on to something else. I do think it's very funny to me that one of the leaders in pushing for a salary cap in the early 90s to mid 90s was the Cowboys because they thought that, like, they would have the competitive advantage in negotiating and things like that. And everyone, I mean, dude, Micah's
hold on. Do you think that it's because they wanted the competitive advantage in that? And I'm not saying that, I shouldn't say do you think, because that could be part of it. But how about that little, like, chart that just every year where that valuation of the Dallas Cowboys keeps going up? You don't think that was part of the reason why?
Probably a little part of it. There's no doubt.
Just because we can be very critical of the way they handle free agents, it's hard to argue with the success of the owner and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys in terms of making money for the franchise. So I've always thought that was a big factor in it too, that when you have that lifting all boats, quote unquote, what it was going to do for the rest of the league, because it was building fan bases in other cities because every team feels like, you know what? We got a chance.
I thought Micah's tweet, though, responding to that, and Micah's funny, and I'm glad that he tweets. All right, it's fun. But his tweet, just getting support for David Mogoleta is fun. And then he wrote at the end of it, there'll be no back doors on this deal. And I was like, there were back doors involved in the Dak contract. There were absolutely back doors involved. And it did not involve Dak's back door at all. Like, dude, the Cowboys lost 2 negotiations with Dak. And look, maybe every team loses their quarterback negotiation. I don't know. And kind of look at it as like, did David Mogletta do a good deal with Jordan Love? The Packers might be going, it was a little much, but, that's a different situation. But Dak got everything he wanted. You couldn't move Dak if you wanted to ever. Twice.
But I mean, we talk about that, but like, as much as you can say it's the agent and stuff like that, the player has to want it too.
Yeah.
And I say that because you look at that Josh Allen deal, and that does not look like a deal where he was like, no, you get every last penny you can get from the Bills. I need to be higher than Dak. I need to be the top paid quarterback in the league. Like, it doesn't look like that was the case at all. So there's a part of me that wonders also where the way Jerry handles these contracts, and I shouldn't say just Jerry, the Cowboys in general, that how you could see how it can piss off players, agents, things like that, where things possibly get dragged out longer because of the fact of like people are frustrated and they get angry, as opposed to like, let's just get this deal done. Let's knock it out right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a little bit less, whatever. But there's a part of me that wonders, even on the Dak deal, if like it got to the point with him where he's like, no, I'll wait this thing out. And if it means I play for another team, then I play for another team. Like I'm not gonna let him have that leverage like that. And that's where it's going to be interesting with the Micah thing, because I don't think Micah is going to be able to help himself, like not want to talk to Jerry and get something done. Micah does not want to play out this rookie year or 5th year of his rookie deal and then get 2 tags. There's no way he's going to want to do that.
Yeah, and on the Micah thing as well, like a lot of times when, people talk about, well, you said this in December that, you don't need to be the highest paid, things like that. Well, first of all, like he did mention that he doesn't need to be the highest paid non-quarterback, but what was really emphasized was that he doesn't need $40 million. And to that point, the highest paid non-quarterback deal at the time was $35 million. So what he was saying was, I don't need to necessarily go over by $5 million. Well, now the highest paid non-quarterback is $40.25 million. So, for him now, I think that's where it starts. I think at the time, if you move quickly and get the deal done, I feel like you can get them done at 37 or 38 with the right terms, that kind of thing. But when you wait, now the market has gone up. Justin Jefferson's deal was the highest paid non-quarterback deal when Micah made those comments. The other thing that Micah said during that time was in the same interview was how he doesn't like to get chipped, how he wants more talent around him. Well, Micah just saw you go through the entire free agency and not do anything that's going to help him not get chipped, not get doubled, and like, I'm not saying this was a big loss for like a huge loss, but his buddy Chauncey Golson's not here anymore either. So you didn't keep the band together. You didn't upgrade and help him. You didn't go trade for Myles Garrett or something. Like, the longer you wait, all of these circumstances that Micah was talking about in December, they have changed too. And so Micah's tone is probably going to change, and his camp's tone is probably going to change as well.
It's tough for me on that one just because Micah says so much. There's a lot of similarities between Micah and Jerry. I mean, they flood the zone with so much stuff that you're just like, it's hard for me to even go as deep as you just did about that, because it's just like, even when he was saying that at his locker, I still was like, yeah, that's fine, but David's not going to agree to that. He wants to wait this thing out because he knows the longer that it goes, the more money that you're going to get. So you can say all of that right now, but you're also not going to be the guy that takes a deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wants to be the highest paid, whatever. Like, so anybody like a Jerry or Micah, they talk so much that it's just like, it's tough for me to like look at any one word or another where, like, let's say, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, let's say we were standing at Amari Cooper's locker and he started talking about his contract. You'd be like, hold on, man. Like, he doesn't really talk about it. Let's hear what he has to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, Micah says so much. Like, I don't remember which player or who said this, but like, it might have been Lawrence. It might have been somebody else.
It was Lawrence.
Like, Micah just be talking. Like, that is so. Like,
that was DeMarcus Lawrence.
I mean, that is such a Jerry thing, dude. Jerry just be talking,
Dak said
that
about
Jerry. You know what I'm saying, Todd, though, where it's like, there's just some people where like, oh, so-and-so said that. That's pretty interesting. Like, they don't normally talk. And then there's other people who are like, he's always saying something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I mean, Dak to a certain extent. Remember, like, Dak, we were dissecting his body language and his tone, and because, like, he doesn't normally talk like that the way he was last year at training camp. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying. It totally makes sense.
It's interesting because of how the timing of everything's played out so far in 2025, because after he was announced as head coach, Luka got traded, and the DFW sports world kind of changed. But if you're like a Cowboys fan who doesn't give a crap about anything else in DFW sports, I do think pretty quiet for a new head coach. Like, we have not talked about Shoddy at all since press conference, and there hasn't been news, and obviously it's the downtime of the year. Good to see him talk yesterday and kind of hear some things that he said. I didn't take away anything drastic, which honestly kind of refreshing. But did you guys pick anything from what Brian Schottenheimer said yesterday?
No, because I think Brian's pretty much, what you get with him. Like, the thing for me with Brian that I need to see will be, I won't get to see it until Sundays, and the reason why I say that is because I know he's a good people person. I know that he's going to have a good culture in that locker room, like that story that Osa said about, when he was on Kay Adams' podcast and talked about how Schottenheimer, called to congratulate him. They got the new contract, but then also went kind of back channeled and found out, well, where they celebrate and what restaurant, and bought him like a bottle of champagne to have sent over to the table, like little things like that. Like, Brian Schottenheimer is going to knock all that stuff out of the park. Like, he'll be great for, like, if there is any like behind the scenes, like, disagreements in the locker room or players not getting along, or, even if, let's say, something happens with a player off the field, like, he'll handle all that stuff. Like, I have no doubts there. My thing with Brian Schottenheimer is, now you are the head coach and offensive play caller. There is a lot on your plate on Sunday where there's going to be a lot of things going on. And that's the part that we just don't know. But like I've said before, you can say a lot of that same stuff about Ben Johnson or anybody else that's going to be a head coach that's also calling the plays for the first time. So that's the thing for me. But like, when we talk to him in that, like, all of his answers, like, there's nothing that I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. That's what I mean. People were dissecting his answer about how he prefers to build a team by saying, like, the outside in terms of, he wants players that dominate one-on-one matchups, like at wide receiver, talking about the value of wide receiver, corner, pass rusher, quarterback, left tackle, guys that are a lot of times are on, like, it's on an island. It's just them. And when he says that stuff to me, it always makes me think, like, yeah, that doesn't really sound like running back is going to be that priority at 12, But now that could also be, it could also be just blowing smoke, because you can say all that and then they draft a defensive tackle or an offensive lineman at 12, where you're just like, okay, well, that doesn't really fit what he was saying. But that's because he also didn't want us to know that, hey, they really would like to get this certain player to fall to them at 12,
And he could get outvoted.
Yeah, and when people dissect the outside in thing, and I saw a lot of that too, it all depends on if you listen to the full answer versus if you just latch on to those three words, because then you're talking about, well, he doesn't care about the offensive line. He's just talking about the wide receiver. Like, no, like to John's point, he's talking about guys that are on one-on-one battles, things of that sort, and all that stuff. So, I mean, to even hear his explanation on what the outside in is, whether you agree or disagree with it, like, it's not exactly what it just jumps out to you and sounds like. So I do think that was the only thing that really stood out to me, was just that comment about how he's trying to build the team. I did think that was kind of interesting, whether it was blowing smoke or truth. Other than that, I'm curious to see how Schottenheimer kind of evolves in his answers as well. That's one thing that I'm watching for. We talked about before, like, is he going to walk into the press conferences with a visor on and, things like that. He's normally been pretty open with, like, a lot of, like, schematic things, not as if you're, like, sitting there in the meeting, but like more than your general coach will be. And I'm curious to see if he's going to continue doing that.
My interpretation of those comments was that, and I was listening to it in my car. My interpretation was more about those comments about the outside in thing was more about just where they're picking in this draft. Was like, I don't know if he makes those comments if they're picking 25th in the draft. I think what that told me, and I might be reading too much into this, was that they might end up having 12 first round grades, and a class where many people might have 10 or less. That was what I was kind of getting out of that. He was talking about, we're drafting high. We need a guy who's going to be a game changer for us. And those are the types that you would think about. Wide receiver, corner, tackle, and defensive end, which, interesting enough, the Cowboys could use all of those. I would lump offensive tackle into that more than others might, and I know which one of see if this works with Guyton and Terrence Steele. But if maybe you like 2 or 3 of those offensive tackles, let's say Mimbu or Campbell or whatever, and they're there, and that's who you have graded highest, I don't see how you would turn that down if that's what you really liked. But there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the draft, and I don't know if how ready you guys are to get into all that stuff. I mean, I liked the idea of wide receiver over running back is a very sexy topic, and I think it's interesting. And I've spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks watching some of those wide receivers. Man, I'm good with McMillan. I don't care about comments he said when he was 19. Like, we would do McMillan at 12. I actually do think that unlocks a lot of things. And when you've paid Dak like you've paid Dak, and he's coming off an injury, I could see Schottenheimer being like, and if it's not McMillan, it's Golden from Texas, or it's whoever it is, right? But I could see where Schottenheimer's like, okay, well, the quarterback's got to be good or we don't win games. How do we help the offense the fastest to win games in my first year? To me, it's the wide receiver more than it is drafting Gentee or someone else, who obviously I love. But I think having another threat with CeeDee Lamb, I mean, McMillan, I think he's really good.
Yeah, so I agree and disagree with you, KT, just in the fact that I agree with you that at 12 I would be more prone to go wide receiver over running back, but that's only because of how deep the running back draft is, and I feel like you can pick up a good back a little bit later. I do think if I'm ranking the Cowboys' needs right now, I do place running back ahead of receiver, though, because at least you have CD. You're maybe counting on Jake Ferguson being a bigger factor. You brought Turpin back, and you're hoping that they use Turpin, in a more of a playmaker role. So I do, and at running back, you quite literally almost have nothing. Like, you don't have a real number one. So for me, running back is more important than receiver, but it goes back to your comment about what Schottenheimer was saying too, where is running back more important at 12 than receiver? I don't think so. I think that's where I would rather take a receiver and then take a running back in round 2 or something like that. But overall, if I was grading the team needs, I would place running back over wide receiver.
For me, at 12, I'd be more. I mean, I'm still a big Ashton Gentee fan, and that makes a lot of sense to me if he's there at 12. But I'm not against wide receiver. But I also.
What about a wide receiver and a cornerback?
Yeah,
come on.
I mean, that's my dream. But the other thing is too, the one that I think would be, and I'm not necessarily saying this for the first round this year, and maybe it's not even the second or whatever, but I do think they need to make sure that they get this offensive line right. And that the reason I'm saying that is, like, as Dak gets older, like, he's still okay. So he's coming back from the hamstring. He's had that ankle that is never going to be 100%. Schottenheimer's asked multiple times these questions about mobile quarterbacks, because Clayton Adams had mobile quarterbacks in Arizona. And Dak, to me, going forward, I need to put him in a situation that's closer to what Goff has than what I would be doing with Kyler Murray. And when I say that with Goff has, it's like Detroit has to have a good offensive line in front of him so that he has time to get the ball to his weapons. And when he has that time, it's deadly. And so that's the one thing I would not. It's a little bit different 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 with Dak. Dak's not that runner anymore. He's, his mobility isn't the same as it was then. And you don't want to be asking him to do that type of running stuff and all that. Like, run to extend a play? Absolutely. But, like, you can't be counting on that other stuff. You need him to be winning from the pocket and then giving him answers in the passing game, which I think that's the plan, and Schottenheimer will be good at. But that's what you have to do going forward. And I don't know that you can do that with the offensive line's okay. Like, I think you have to have a good offensive line. I'm not saying you have to have the best offensive line, but you have to have a good one. And so you're going to find out, even if you don't draft one early in this draft, you're going to find out a lot about what you have in Steele, what you have in Guyton, BB. You obviously know you have an answer in Tyler Smith. But I do think that if it isn't this year, next year, a premium pick is going to be spent on that offensive line, because it has to be a team strength. It cannot be a bottom of the league offensive line, or this team's not going to have success.
Yeah, and you have 3 open spots on the offensive line in the sense of right guard and both tackles. And the reason why I say both tackles is because we often talk about this with quarterback of, when a player starts getting to a certain point, you have to start planning for the next guy that's going to take over. And I think we're already in that territory with Terrence Steele. And then with Tyler Guyton, we just don't know what he's going to be. And there's versatility there where, if Terrence Steele, if they are done with Terrence Steele after the next year, they can flip Tyler Guyton to the other side and they can play their next guy at left tackle, whatever the case is. So I think, and then right guard, obviously, I think you have options with Brock Hoffman and TJ Bass, but you can do better. So yeah, I think all 3 of those spots.
I agree with both of you, by the way. And this is what's fun because I was pretty dead set on going okay, offensive and defensive line is really where we need to focus on here. And then the closer you get, and the more I just realize how bad this offense could look with one injury to a wide receiver. Imagine if CeeDee Lamb, something, God forbid, or even Turpin, who we're now even feels like a bit of a dice roll to fully understand how much he's going to play at wide receiver. And that's kind of led me. And also you start, watching the guys, and you can get drunk on watching them and things like that. I did a little exercise before we went on today, and I wasn't intending on doing this today, but the conversation has taken us here, so I'm going to do it. So I put together 12 guys that I would draft at 12, okay? So this basically rules out, this is what's fun about it, is you can go to any mock or big board list you want, and this would rule out your Shedeur Sanders and your Cam Wards. This would rule out Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, the tight ends, and kind of really pare it down. So I'm going to see if you guys agree. I'm not dead set on my order. I think I'll change that, but I'm just going to 12 guys that I would draft at 12. Okay, Travis Hunter, there's clear.
Yes.
Easy right there. Abdul Carter, we're good there. Yes. These are things that'll never happen. Jalen Walker from Georgia.
Yeah,
I love him. I know some people are split on him. Membu, the tackle from Missouri.
Yeah.
Will Campbell, LSU, tackle.
Mm-hmm.
McMillan, wide receiver, Arizona. I love him. And you know what? I didn't realize till I watched him that he played inside a lot too, and I just love as much as they move CeeDee Lamb around. Moving him around too. Oh my God. Mike Green from Marshall, who I know some people have questions about. I love Mike Green from Marshall.
You love Mike Green from Marshall ahead of Ashton Genty?
I've just got him on the list of 12.
Okay.
Will Johnson, cornerback. Barron, the cornerback. Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama. Jihad Campbell, who I don't think they need there, but if we're talking about a guy who might, it's just interesting. And then Ashton Genty.
Wait, did I miss Mason Graham or did
I took Mason Graham out because I kind of don't like him, but I know everyone does. So that's
you
that's a
you like
Kevin
Will
thing.
Johnson more than Mason Graham at 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
I think out of all those names you said, I think there's about 7 that I think I like, or no, 7 that I really do like, and then I think at least one of them will be there because I do see where I'm pretty confident 2 quarterbacks are going to go, and then I could see one of those tight ends going too, and so
Abdul Carter.
Yeah, well, no, he said Abdul Carter, so I'm counting him in that 7. I think.
Well, yeah, I'm saying he won't be there.
Right, but Travis Hunter won't be there either. But I'm just saying I'm using those to combine to push it back to say that one of those 7 I think should be there to where you should be able to get a good pick at 12.
Let me quickly say,
I don't like the idea of any off the ball linebacker either. I don't really know that. I really don't know how I don't necessarily think that there's a corner there that I think is worthy of 12. I don't know how you feel about that, but I just think that might be a little bit high for any of the corners.
What do you guys think about giving up next year's one to go up and get Hunter?
Yeah, I'm all about it. I don't think there's anybody that covers this team that has talked about that more than I have. So I don't even need to speak on that. I've been saying this for the last month. That would be the greatest possible thing that they could do for me. And I do think that there is a small chance that they would do it, but I don't think it's very likely. And I say that because you look at this roster and it's got more holes than just being one away. Like if we just fix this with Hunter, we're there. There's some rosters in the league. Like I really think like with Detroit or Philadelphia and maybe a couple others, you could do a move like that and be like, hey, we'll worry about next year. What this guy will do for this team this year just puts us over the top. But I just think that the Cowboys really need that one next year, like I already said about the offensive line. So I don't think they'll do it, but I would not be against it at all if they did that move. And then when I say that too, I don't mean getting up to like 3. I think you'd have to probably go to like 4 or 5 where he falls because 2 quarterbacks go Abdul Carter and then somebody maybe we don't think, and then you get from 12 to 4, 12 to 5. But I'm not talking about getting up to 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah, and to me, the only reason I do give it a shot, I would be surprised but not shocked if they were able to do it, is just because we're looking at it from how it would look on the field and stuff. But I think Jerry also sees the marketing pluses to it, with Dion being here 30 years ago and that being Dion's kid basically, and then Dion's skill set. I feel like he can see it as like a marketing ploy as well. So because of that, I wouldn't rule it completely out. But yeah, I mean that's probably I'm with Jon. Like, I know Jon's been talking about it the most, but like I would say like that would be my best case scenario on draft night, is if Travis Hunter was a Cowboy.
So you give up 12, pick 44.
No.
And next year's
no.
Okay,
No.
How much are we talking to get up to?
You'd only be giving up next year's 1, and then maybe something else. You would not be giving up another 2.
Okay. Does that play out on our draft chart?
It would depend on how high the additional pick depends on how high they think 1 will be the following year. If they think the Cowboys will be drafting somewhere between 10 and 20, you probably don't have to add that much more in than a 1, but obviously you'd have to project that. So maybe you give next year's 1 and next year's like a 4th.
Okay, yeah. So you figured out with a day 3.
Yeah.
Type thing. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
from a trade chart perspective, pick 12 and then pick 31 next year would get you up to.
Yeah,
pick
well, they're
4.
not going to have to worry about that, but let's say pick probably like 20 something. But yeah,
well, get Travis Hunter maybe.
Well, also, and if that doesn't go well, people will be furious because he'll be doing podcasts and everything as well. So they'll be
okay.
I'm just saying.
We do podcasts.
No, I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm just saying people will be annoyed by that.
Let me housekeep the Mason Graham thing. The reason I didn't put Mason Graham on there too, outside of I don't love him as much as everyone else does, is they just signed Osa too. So I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense to just go there again, although they could both play at the same time. I think that's fine. But I'm not, crazy.
Dude, they had Osa last year, and defensive tackle did not look good last year.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And last year you had the optimism, or at least the organization did. Maybe we all didn't, but you had the optimism that Mozzie's going to take the next step. New defensive scheme is going to work for him. He's gotten his weight right. Everything other than when he was playing the New York Giants, he did not look good. So, yeah.
You know the old adage, Sod. Third scheme's a charm.
Yeah.
That's what they say. They actually make shirts that say that. What about this scenario? Since you didn't mention any of these guys, and I do think that this is a topic that has been discussed amongst Cowboys fans and probably within the team, is so what about if I tell you right now McMillan's gone and you have to take a wide receiver? Which receiver are you taking?
Boy, it gets tough because I don't like any of the guys.
I know. Not at 12.
I think there's a
trade
drop
back
off.
to 20 maybe, but at 12 I don't.
The drop off after McMillan is bigger than I think people think. And I know a lot of people, and they're probably Longhorns fans, love Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
No. In fact, I wouldn't want him. The team I pull for, the Packers, took him at 23. Like I'm not there with any of the other wide receivers.
And I get that, when I say this, it's going to sound like, oh, well, I'm just doing hindsight's 2020. But I promise you I'm not doing that. I'm going off of what I felt in the draft, going into the draft before I ever seen these guys play. I'm just going off of like what they did in college.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you would have got me to take McMillan over CeeDee Lamb at 12. And so the fact that you got CeeDee Lamb where you did, like the idea like McMillan is probably the only wide receiver, I mean, unless you count Travis Hunter, that I would even consider at 12. All the rest, I'm like, yeah, if you're trading back or something, but like not at 12. McMillan, to be honest with you, like on some of the stuff that you mentioned, about him, like some of the knocks on him, like would make me not want to take him at like 5, 6, 7. It's like somewhere like to me, he's not Julio Jones, he's not Kelvin Johnson, he's not Jamar Chase. But 12 seems like a good spot for somebody with his. And then the other thing that I like about him too is the size is what's been kind of missing for the Cowboys, and it just seems like it would be a good fit opposite of what you have with CD. Seems like he could really capitalize in the red zone, use his big body there, might not need as much of the speed element as some people say. I think 12 is a great spot to take McMillan and feel good about it. But I don't think like you miss out on him that all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, Emeka Ibuka, here we go, or Luther Burden or Matthew Golden. You know what I'm saying? I would be like, unless you're trying to trade back, go in another position. I just think there would be better value there, whether it be like a pass rusher.
So, John, along those lines, I guess different position but same concept. So Ashton Genty is the guy.
Yeah, no chance, nobody else.
Amari and Hampton.
No way.
Because I've seen him mocked a few times,
No.
and I disagree with that too.
No.
This is where hindsight comes in, and it's just a horrible thing. And I hate doing this. I know you guys hate doing this. You guys know that I'm not a big fan of like just, okay, we're going to tank it. I think it's a harder thing to accomplish in a sport where you could actually die playing it. But those, maybe a month of Trey Lance, because if you're picking 8th right now or 9th instead of 12th, and God knows there were a lot of jockeying at those positions at the bottom half of the top 10. But the drop off at those two positions that we're talking about, from the top guy at running back and the top 2 guys at wide receiver, is massive. And then at least I think it's massive. And you're like, God dang it, if we were at 9, then I feel very confident in getting one of these guys. At 12, dude, it would not be a shock at all if Genty and McMillan are gone.
Yeah.
And I feel weird because 16 feels like the right spot to take McMillan. But if we're going to play that game, dude, you know who I'd take? Give me the right guard, Tyler Booker from Alabama, because I know he's going to be good. It's like the safest thing to me is just taking him. And yeah, you might want to take him at 20, but you're picking 12th, and that's the game we're playing. So I can get caught in that thing. McMillan, I've talked myself into more on him as we've gotten closer because, man, he's getting a lot of Drake and London comparisons, and I don't really love that, honestly. Like, I think it's closer to, like, T. Higgins, and then if it really pops, Mike Evans. And that's like if it really sets it off. And the best way for that to get set off is for you to play with CeeDee Lamb. Like, I think CeeDee Lamb and McMillan together, you immediately have just top of my head, so I'm going to get too superlative. I want to say top 5 wide receiver duo in the NFL. Unproven for McMillan, of course. But I think we're talking that big-time potential. All that money Cincinnati just forked out for their guys, you have a really good shot at that. And
he'll
that
be there.
Is so
He's
sexy.
There. He's sitting there, and everybody just thinks it's the obvious pick, and they take Jackson Dart.
Dude, Jackson Dart can go back to the 3rd round where he belongs.
Could you just imagine the reaction to that?
Oh, my God.
Pick?
That's Penix, although Penix is weirdly starting already. Imagine Dak and all that dead money getting benched for Jackson Dart. Oh, my God.
Sorry, man. It's Dart's time.
Chaos.
Wouldn't be that different from Penix. They gave Kirk Cousins like $180 million or something and immediately drafted Penix like weeks later.
And no one wants him.
Yeah.
Or the money.
Dallas Cowboys 1st round pick, Jackson Dart.
Ugh. God, how drunk would that war room have to be on this guy?
That's where you would see people like going with those petitions to get the Joneses to have to sell the team and stuff. Like it gets to like the state level. Like people are stepping in.
I don't even know if Jackson Dart's any good, and everyone's trying to make him. Dude, people are trying to ramp up the 8th year player Tyler Shuck from Louisville.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Hey, he was decent at Oregon. He had a collarbone thing at Tech. I think he broke his collarbone twice in college. He's a pretty good player. I'm not drafting a 26-year-old. I can't. I just can't.
Look at these
Brandon Weeden, baby.
These round 5 compensatory picks.
Mm-hmm.
Look for Quinn Ewers to be one of those.
Ugh.
Just guaranteed. pretty
I
much.
just don't understand why we.
Just prepare your mind. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Can you just imagine?
Buckle
Okay,
up.
since I like just coming up with these awful scenarios to make people sick. You're in the 5th round. They're using one of those picks on Quinn Ewers, and they still haven't drafted a running back yet.
But in their mind, they see the word compensatory, and they're like, free lottery ticket. Let's draft a quarterback because this could be the next dad. To me, that's not a pick they would have anyway. So might as well take a flyer. That's what's going to happen.
If they get to the 5th round, they get to those compensatory picks, and they have not taken a running back. People should still be angry, regardless of whatever they do with those 5th round picks. Like, honestly, you should be pretty disappointed if you're a Cowboys fan and they don't take a running back on one of the first 2 days.
Yeah,
Like,
I would
if you
say
get out of
round
round 3 and they haven't
Yeah.
taken a running back, that's such a bad look for them.
Well, we like that Scatterboo, and we're going to play him at linebacker. I don't know if that's his position.
Hold on. No way they get the name right. There's no way.
There's no way.
Scatterboom.
The Scatterboom, we like him. He can play a little both sides of the ball. We like that Travis Hunter, but Scatterboom, he can play a little linebacker for us too. Of course, he can punt.
In the show.
Still got Deuce Vaughn.
Okay, let's get out of here. We'll be back next week. Draft is 22 days away as we record on this Wednesday afternoon. Follow Jon Machota, Saad Yusuf, Kent. Kent does that Mad About Movies podcast as well. Make sure you're checking the guys out. And everyone have a good week. We'll be back next week to talk Masters. No, okay, we'll just talk football some more. Okay, I'm Kevin, and I love you all. See you next time on the One Star Cowboys podcast. Bye.
And I don't know his name.